Ken Shamrock and Jerry Saggs of the Nasty Boys are two men who couldn't be any more different. While Ken Shamrock is a man of discipline who would go on to become a UFC heavyweight champion, the Nasty Boys would get into many incidents on the road throughout their devious tenure in professional wrestling. They would get into many incidents from fistfights with New Jack over racial humor, shaving Eddie Guerrero's eyebrows, even punching actor Matt Damon at a bar before he was the well-known actor that we all know today. However, while they love to pull a good rib, they also like to drink profusely, and one night a chain of events would occur that would almost result in the loss of a human life. The following is an excerpt from the book Tight and Screwed, Lost Smiles, Stunners, and Screwjobs by James Dixon, Justin Henry, Benjamin Richardson, and R.D. Reynolds. When they felt the numbers were in their favor, the Nasty Boys were not afraid of confronting anyone. They even tussled with future UFC Hall of Famer Ken Shamrock, roughing him up in a violent motel brawl. The altercation took place in 1990 while both parties were working for small-time promotion South Atlantic Pro Wrestling. Following the evening show, Shamrock, who worked under the ring name Vince Torelli, was sat at a local bar called Funk Crazies with a friend from the ring crew and his girlfriend. Brian Knobbs was sitting at the table next to them. "I started it," admitted Knobbs. "We were drinking and I was drinking a lot. Maybe a little bit too much. I was drunk." Knobbs kept reaching over and grabbing my buddy's girlfriend's tits, recalled Shamrock. He did it 3 or 4 times and she kept slapping his hand away. My friend, who wasn't a big guy, was saying, "Come on, brother, please, man." Knobbs refused to listen, putting his hand in his face and yelling, "Shut up, dude." I jumped up and said, "You know what? That's it. Dude, next time you touch her, I'm breaking your hand." Knobbs, who grew up as a barroom fighter, was eager to test the younger's mettle. "Oh, so you're a tough guy, huh?" he sneered, before pressing his face aggressively into Shamrock's. Seeing red, Shamrock threw his drink at Knobbs, only to be immediately grabbed by one of the club's bouncers and hauled into the bathroom. "Calm down, brother, they're out of here. We kicked them out. Go back out there and be cool," he was advised. When Shamrock returned to his table, as promised, the Nasty Boys had been ejected from the venue. Shamrock was so angry that he could not let the issue drop. As the SAPW performers were all staying in the same motel that evening, he decided to knock on every door until he found the pair. By the time he had reached the door of Robert Colonel Parker Fuller, Shamrock was so worked up that he screamed, "What room are the Nasty Boys in? I know you know where they are!" Fuller could do little but point in the direction of their door. Shamrock had hardly been subtle in his quest to find the tandem, and they were waiting for him when he kicked down their motel room door. He was greeted with the sight of a wasted Knobbs apparently unconscious on his bed, and Saggs waiting behind the door. There was a brief skirmish in which Saggs knocked over the television set, and Shamrock began pounding on Brian Knobbs, leaving him sporting a black eye the next day. Then Saggs caught Shamrock from behind and knocked him out cold. "I saw Knobbs lying on the bed, passed out. That's all I remember," said Shamrock. "From the medical reports and the police report, from what I understand, Saggs hit me in the back of the head with a steel phone. They started putting the boots to me, both of them. Knobbs was pretending to be asleep, but it was some kind of setup. They broke my sternum, broke my eye socket, put me in a concussion. They almost killed me. I actually died in the ambulance going to the hospital. It took me almost a year to recover." Ken was in bad shape. His head was swollen to the point that it almost didn't look human, remembered SAPW booker Frank Dusek. His entire face was a mass of purples, greens, and shades of yellow. For his part, Saggs denied that Knobbs had any involvement or that he assaulted Shamrock with a phone. "I never hit him with anything but my hands and feet," claimed Saggs. "I was on the phone when he burst into the room and he knocked me over the television set, then jumped on top of Knobbs. I punched him in the face and we went at it." Their version of the story turns them into superheroes, dismissed Shamrock. "I walked into the room. I didn't jump on him and start beating on him. That's ridiculous. I looked over, I yelled at him, and that's the last thing I remember." After Shamrock had knocked on his door, Robert Fuller had a suspicion about what was going to transpire. He heard and saw the commotion from his room down the hall and realized he needed to intervene for the sake of the Nasty Boys' future as much as Shamrock's health. With assistance from the Pitbulls Gary Wolf and Anthony Durant, Fuller was able to talk the Nasty Boys out of throwing the prone Shamrock off the hotel balcony and onto the concrete below, averting certain death. 8 years later, when the two parties encountered each other for the first time since the fracas in a chance airport meeting, Shamrock was a bona fide Ultimate Fighting legend and an active WWF performer. and the Nasty Boys had recently been fired from WCW. Despite the time that had elapsed, Shamrock had not forgiven the duo for what they did to him. He was stood in line with Billy Gunn waiting to check in when he spotted Brian Knobbs sliding up next to him. Shamrock saw red immediately and was determined to avenge the beating he had taken nearly a decade earlier. The situation between Shamrock and the Nasty Boys was well known throughout the industry, with many WWF performers getting a kick out of playfully ribbing Shamrock about the incident. World's Most Dangerous Man, Jerry Sags, they mocked, which irritated the proud Shamrock to no end. Billy Gunn realized there was a situation brewing immediately as he warned through gritted teeth, "Don't do it, dude." Shamrock was shaken with rage and did not pay the advice any attention. Instead, he leaned in close to Knobbs and calmly whispered to him, "I'm gonna kill you." Gunn stepped in and grabbed Shamrock to prevent him from ruining his career and potentially his life, while Knobbs realized he was in a precarious situation and hightailed it out of there. "Talk about the biggest wimp you've ever seen," observed Shamrock. He had been bragging for years about how they beat me up, and now he was running away. Knobbs caught up with his tag partner, who was at the gate catching up with old friends from the duo's time in WWF. He told him the situations, and Sags loudly voiced, "Hey, what's up with Shamrock? Man, someone needs to give that guy a chill pill. He had better watch himself." Sags did not realize that Shamrock was stood right next to him. In a flash, Shamrock jumped over a chair and spun Sags around, yelling so all the boys could hear, "I'm standing right here, you little b****. What are you gonna do now? I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you, you son of a bitch." Sags realized an airport was not the smartest place to be fighting and tried to calm the situation down. "Dude, chill out, man. It was years ago. If you have such a problem with it, fly to my house and fight me there." Shamrock was not interested in reasoning with him and responded, "Yeah, for you it was. For me it feels like it just happened, and I haven't forgotten about it." Sags simply turned away from him and warned, "If you hit me, it is a federal offense." Instantly, the situation calmed down. At that point, all the anger left my body. "He was totally sickening," said Shamrock. "He pussed out in front of everyone, in front of all the boys. He was like a little child shitting his pants. What do you do with a guy like that? I'm not a bully." When he did that, I was like, you know what? I'm good with that. It was kind of satisfying. It was better than anything I could have ever done to him. There's different sides to the story, with the Nasty Boys saying that Ken Shamrock tried to beat on a passed out Brian Knobbs, while the other version of the story is Shamrock was set up and ambushed from behind, being hit over the back of the head with a phone. I think it's probably safe to say that neither story is 100% accurate, with the story taking place such a long time ago. The part of the story reported by everyone to be true, however, is the most disturbing one, with Sags trying to throw Shamrock's limp body 3 stories down onto the concrete below. Ken Shamrock and the Nasty Boys would go on to never cross paths ever since, and it makes you wonder what would happen if the 3 men ever crossed paths again. Funny enough, Ken Shamrock is rumored to be going into the WWE Hall of Fame next year, and one team that people say are deserving of a Hall of Fame inclusion are the Nasty Boys. Could the Nasty Boys and Ken Shamrock have some sort of weird reunion at the Hall of Fame next year? I guess only time will tell. It's a truly disgusting incident, and while the Nasty Boys would go on to have several other embarrassing outings in wrestling, they would thankfully never reach new lows like this ever again.